Hi, this is Shilpa here. Welcome to my blog this time. This is a very interesting case because it has been taken under my supervision by a student homeopath. Now, she's done a very good job. She's taken all the symptoms from head to toe. I haven't put in everything here. However, I have put in the place where I stepped in and we did a bit of fine tuning. So this person, he's a 49-year-old monk and he has lots of problems. The main presenting symptoms were these recurrent ear infections, which he's been having for the last few months and has been on antibiotics for that. He's had really bad mouth ulcers, headaches, which were intense, on a regular basis with lots of tension and stiffness in the neck. He's had IBS all his life and he's had glandular fever as well. So when at one point in the case, he came to this really intense background anxiety, which was the state of being really tightly strung and he could not let go. So we asked him to talk about this and he said it's existential, it's birth related, and it sits right behind my heart, and I run my whole life from this anxiety. There is this incredible panic and fear, and it's about being unsupported and unconnected. And for me, coming into this world was a shock. Now, this just came out of nowhere. We didn't expect this to come up at this point in the case, and so I thought this is important. We need to understand what is this really core raw fear he has. So he said, my mom wanted a girl, and all my life, as a child, I've had these dreams of being abandoned and really massive, crazy dreams where he's being left by his parents and he's trying to shout and he loses his voice. And he has this intense fear, he had it as a child, of being alone. And he said, at 3, I nearly lost my voice. They ripped my tonsils out and I nearly bled to death. I was the second child. My older brother bet the crap out of me every day. His older brother was mentally ill and he was autistic. And he said it was terror. It was 1950 type of parenting. I was unsupported and I felt very alone. And then he said, I had Kundalini-like experiences when I would go to sleep or whenever I had really high fever. He said there was this energy shift as if a broomstick was on fire. I felt very small and I vibrated and I could hear the sound and it was really terrifying. He said I was very small, I was in like a tiniest particle I can imagine, and there was this burning sensation which was extremely painful in the center of my body, and then everything vibrated and I felt closed in. It was like I would hear the sound of creation. It's a sound your whole body, a whole being throbs with. It was terrifying and I woke up crying out. I would feel very, very tiny, intangible, surrounded and pushed in, but at the same time expansive and growing huge. And then he said, it was really the feeling of being very intangible and very light, like being everywhere. It was very out of control and scary. And fear of really letting go. I was losing my sense of self, as if I'm gone and then there is no me. And he said I was belted every day and I did not get any support from the parents. So I wanted to be held safe and I feel safe enough to let go and relax. And since then, I have this intense tightness and tension in my body. So from that, we came to this really intense experience he's had, which he related right back when he was 3. And then he said these experiences stopped after that tonsillectomy. So when he was 3, he had that thing and he almost bled to death and they rushed me to the hospital. I caught up with my body and incarnated physically. And then things got in control. And I stopped bleeding and they got me out of the hospital. And I got into my body and it trapped me. I could not trip out. My gut started then. My whole life I've had problems with my gut. I've had 3 terrible gastric infections. So this was really important and interesting the way he explained things. That until 3, he had these experiences which he could really remember, and he remembered it having only once or twice when he was in when he became the monk, but during a meditation. But it really stopped after he had that tonsillectomy and some complication, which we didn't actually go deeply into. So what happened was he got incarnated in his physical body. Now, at this stage, we worked this case out, and we made an interpretation, and we took some really important symptoms which I felt were striking and peculiar physically and mentally. And then I also worked this case out using other sources of the Matra Medica, because by this time the case was very clear and the remedy was quite clear as well. So let's come there. Ears left, because that was a major focus. There was wax there, constant infections in the left ear. He had these mouth ulcers, which has been a constant thing. I took the back tension with the cervical headache. And then this really anxiety, which was centered around the heart region, which he was very clear about. And some of the mind symptoms were forsaken. And I wanted to take these two really intense sensations he had, the feeling of being diminished and the feeling of being enlarged, both at the same time. And then there was this real isolation type of forsaken feeling. And on the other hand, he wanted to let go. And there was this extreme feeling of fear of death during that time. So these symptoms were important because I wanted to see that everything fit in with whatever symptoms he was telling us. So I put these symptoms as the case was being analyzed. And the remedies which we came up with were hydrogen, stramonium, pulsatilla, argentum nitricum, platina, camphor, and so on and so forth. But for me, when he started talking about that real intense feelings, I realized the existential fears, the Kundalini experiences, was as if he was just this essence or energy, this ethereal being, which was without a body. And after the surgery, he mentioned he incarnated into his physical body. This for me really was about row 1 in the periodic table. And there are just 2 remedies in that, hydrogen and helium. And for me, hydrogen was the core here because it's the fear of existence and whether I would exist or not is the key issue for hydrogen, just from the understanding of the periodic table. And the way it came up, even in the repertorization, was a real good connection for me. There are a few delusions in a hydrogen which are really very strong, which I did not take, but I knew when I referred it back was this delusion of energy, powerful, moving around, and the separation from soul. So which is about this. And Jeremy in the proving mentions, because it's the first element to be formed, the state is somewhere at the beginning of energy and matter. And for him, there was this problem about the energy and the matter, and he incarnated into matter, and that was where the problem started from. So from many angles and from many levels, this case to me was hydrogen. And it was important that the other physicals also matched very well with hydrogen, especially the headaches, which were really very clear at the back of his head and with tension in the cervical region, and also about his constant ear infections and the mouth ulcers, and the headaches and the gastric symptoms coming together in one as a concomitance. So he was given hydrogen 201 dose, and he came after a month, and I thought it was very important about the follow-up was really interesting to me. He said, immediately after the dose, I felt a lightness, a shift in accepting what I can and what I can't do. I was able to let things go that can't be done rather than being driven to do too much. And I was able to go deeply spiritually in meditation as well. And he said, it's the physicals. The itching in the ear is much better. The mind's lighter. The headaches have disappeared. And then he somehow related to his previous partner where there were a few issues. And he said, I reached a newer level of evolution. So we asked him about that a bit, and he talked about his dreams. He said, my dreams have shifted too. I haven't had the dreams of being chased by oppressive forces. He said there were resolution dreams, changing the way I look at things. I felt a very deeper level of acceptance with a former partner in a dream. It was the recognition and the acceptance of what is and what was, and I'm happy with that. My energy levels are much better. I'm not as grumpy as before. And he said in the first week, the dose was really marked and strong, but I haven't dropped off from there. So that dose was still continuing for us. Now, it was a really intense, dramatic follow-up for me because there were shifts at so many different levels. But the most important thing was, because the remedy was still working, we asked him to just continue and take it only if required. If he's not dropping off, he can just let be and come back to us if he needs to, because there was nothing else which he really wanted. He was really doing very well. Things were really falling in place, and he was cruising along very well. And it was important for me, not about the follow-up, but also about the fact that hydrogen was a remedy which was so new, say around 10 years back for me personally. When I was a student, I would never have imagined that 10 years later or 14 years later, I would be prescribing a remedy such as hydrogen with such conviction and confidence, because we have this remedy which has evolved in so many different ways. And thanks to Jeremy, who's not just proved it, it also confirmed the fact of the understanding of what Ian Sholton talked about in the periodic table as well. So not just the core of the remedy, but also the physicals. And it was wonderful to see the headaches being there in the remedy, the ear infections being there, the gut problems being confirmed, and all the other parts which would have been missing if we didn't have a proving. And what could have been happened if there was no hydrogen, then there would be some other remedy which would come up. Say, for example, cannabis indica or stramonium or camphor, and they would do the job, yes, and there is no doubt about that. But the fact is, these newer remedies have added such a lot of value, and especially because these remedies are so well proven and so well documented, and the clinical information, because so many homeopaths have used them, today you can use them as easily as, say, a pulsatilla or a lycopodium, just because you have information there at your fingertips. So I just think we've come a long way, and I think it's great to be able to have such new wonderful remedies to be able to work with and give our patients what they want. Now, is this the remedy for the patient? Is this constitutional? We don't know. I'm happy with what's happening at the moment. The patient is happy with it, so we'll go on with it. And who knows? We haven't confirmed him at the source at stage 4, but I think it's great for students and also for us to learn and be able to give such remedies just based on whatever information the patient can give us today, and go from there. So hope this helps you and encourages you to use and learn about newer remedies and newer provings, and work and share it with others. I would love to know what other new polycrests you've been using in your practice, and share it with us. Thank you very much, and I take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.